Hey everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Snapchat. I'm joined today by none other than Cozy Snap. Cozy, Madam Web entered the world of Marvel Slap. Marvel Slap.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm not even cutting it out. No, we're going.
Marvel Slap's amazing.
It entered Marvel Slap, and I got to tell you, Madam Web was expected to be an absolute meta shaker. Ultimately, has it reached those expectations? Because it was a day that a lot of people had circled on the calendars, move gamers and just everyone looking for that meta warping next card. And I'm not sure if it lived up to that expectation, so I'm interested in your thoughts.
Circled on the calendars. Mine was not an expo. Mine was in permanent marker. Like I was hyped for this card. And listen, guys, I was wrong. Or was I? I don't know. I think so. Like at the end of the day, it's going to fall a little bit flatter than my expectations for the card. But we kind of said this with Symbiote. There's so much going on right now in the meta. I just think it's very tough to tell. And this is not a card that I can just slap a rating on right away. She did fall flat from my 5 in a move deck of 5. I don't know what to rank her, though. I'm not going to give her a 3. I think that's so crazy. At least a 4 if played on curve really well. And then Aranya is going to boost her up. So we have to see what that's going to do. For the first time, I think statistics just don't speak to her, because we have people that don't play move decks playing a move deck.
Yeah, so obviously, like, move as a whole has a learning curve that's pretty extreme. And as you see the play rate increase because of the weekend missions, you're seeing the win rate decrease as well, as people are trying to experiment with it as well. Like right now, it's running a 49% win rate, a negative cube rate at 21% meta share.
Yeah,
and this is post-infinite. Like those are rough numbers, right?
Doesn't shock me though. Like it just doesn't. Like with move decks in general. But I think, move. We'll have to see what Aranya does. But move, it continues to feel like at the end of the day, like I loved her best in control because of all the things you can do and being able to. Kind of what I highlighted before we talked about the move aspect. But move just feels like you're always trying to do so much in a game that's meant to be simplistic and short, and so. It's just awkward.
Yeah, and you're really fixating on just a couple key pieces that get like overinflated stats, whereas like a lot of the best decks, like they don't just like we've had the blob metas and stuff like that, but like having just a 99 moving dagger, like it just dies to Shang-Chi. It just dies to Shadow King. And I don't want to just like simplify to just it's the tech card that does the thing, but like it kind of is at the same time. You need to win 2 locations.
You know what hurt her the most? By far. If you go look back at what we were talking about her, our favorite thing about her pretty much was just the easy ability to change your mind and play in locations that are hard to get into. Then War Machine comes out and instantaneously, so she came out and nullified War Machine completely. I remember this whenever we would talk about that. Then War Machine gets buffed, and then all of a sudden you can play in these locations. You don't have to worry about moving cards. So that was like another strike against her. It's just interesting. Like with move, there's probably move players listening to this. Like, are you guys crazy? This card is so wild and so nuts. Probably for you. Yeah. Where do you land? I mean, for me, I'm right now at a 4-star, but I also just say that with a lot of hesitancy because I just don't care about this first week so much. I need to see more down the line.
First of all, you're 100% right. It's near impossible to completely and accurately rate a card that's as potentially archetype warping as Madam Web. Based on its first week, it's the same thing as like what happened with Annihilus, especially considering you were getting something like Aranya literally coming in the next couple days. That is going to have a remarkable impact on not only this card but the move archetype as a whole.
A massive.
And so like it's missing a piece here. It's like it's missing. It's like a car with missing a wheel right now, right? Like, and I think Aranya is that 4th wheel that's going to help. So it is hard to identify like exactly where this card is. My reservations that I had prior have seemed to kind of like ring true, which I'll be honest with you guys, like last week was super stressful. We joked about it on the podcast, how like I decided I was going to dig my heels in, right? Because it was hard kind of being like one of the only ones that was not like over the moon for Madam Web. And Cozy, you would know this, right? Sometimes, the internet and people at the keyboard, they get a little aggressive and they tell you that, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy's clueless, this and that. And then like, it just adds some stress to the evaluation of the cards. And then like, you get it. And sure enough, it's like, oh man, like it's actually kind of falling flat. But then again, Cozy, if I could say, I don't think that there'll ever be a top ranked meta move deck that does not have Madam Web in it. If Move is ever going to become a meta contender, there is no conceivable way that Madam Web is not in that deck. It's just a matter of time to where these numbers are.
I still gave her a good grade after I played her because I think what she offers and her as a collection piece, tier your collection is a 5-star card. I like it as that. And it's tough to rank her outside of that. But it's just, this show is all about what our initial thoughts are, and then we have our main videos. And so I'm sorry that if you got any flack out there in general, like it's mind-blowing. You know what we should do? I think at the new year, December, I want to go and look at, for like a main subject, we look at every week of every card and look at every ranking and kind of where they ended up. Now, it's not going to be fair to things like War Machine that ended up doing a lot better, but we'll know what it turned into because it'll be cool. I think, we definitely have a decent batting average. It's not terrible. But stuff like this, stuff like Madam Web is super hard when you add mechanics rather than just it doing something, right? And if it makes you feel any better, I don't think Silver Sable is the best card this month, and I don't think Madam Web's going to be either. So it's probably going to be Aranya or Scarlet Spider. We're going to have to see with that. But yeah, overall, jury's out. I think we should talk about her next week again, too. I think, like, with Aranya, we kind of give, like, another mini subject to Madam.
Absolutely. And, like, I remember laying in bed on the Monday night after the Snapchat had released, waiting for Madam Web's launch. And, like, I couldn't sleep that night. I was so stressed out about this card release. And it was super stressful because, like, I kind of wanted to crack the code. And I was thinking about, like, Move, and I'm like, everyone's going to be going towards Move. I actually don't think that's the answer. And so when I started up my stream at the launch of the card, and it was like Tuesday, and everyone's like, why is this guy not playing Move? Why is he playing Miss Marvel ongoing? Why is he doing all these ongoing decks? And what's interesting is, I want to tell you something, Cozy. When looking at Untapped statistics right now, Move is sub 50%, which is exactly what we expected. I remember I actually had a highlight of me playing Move where I lost a game, like, and that's why the win rate's going to be low, because like it was like a Heimdall for no reason. Like I just Heimdalled because I'm like, send it, right? It's like, it started bouncing around everywhere. Who cares, right? And so like there was a lot of that happening, and like I know very calculated Move gamers out there are like, whatever, but like what's crazy about Madam Web is in some of the ongoing decks, she's performing very well. Like in the Miss Marvel decks, like those are 54% win rate decks. They're not like blowing the top off the meta, but she's a core component to those lists. Yeah, it's performing better than Move.
I like her right now better in these plug and play decks than Move. But also, like, in my Madam Web video, like, dude, I was getting hit with like Enchantress, and so I'm like, whatever, like, ridiculous. Like, that's not gonna happen in a week from now. So I got to see how it evolves into, man, in general. But yeah, I'll tell you what, when I record on Move decks or Bounce, I just await the comments that say, you should have done this to this to this to this instead of your whatever. And so, like, I always know I'm playing it a little bit worse than probably I should have. But yeah, Madam Web, let's revisit her next week. I think pretty good overall.
Yeah, it'll be a good idea to revisit her, especially with Aranya. The card has the potential to really warp the meta. And it's just maybe going to take a little bit more time to get there. And maybe even, remember, it was data mined as a 2-3, right? It was data mined as a 2-3, got moved to a 2-1. And as we move on, I just want to say that, like, I almost wish she was a 2-3. And not because I think that she needs a buff necessarily, but because as a 2-3, she would be better in the other decks that aren't Move. And I feel like the 2-1 stat line was not only for Red Guardian reasons, but also because they're like, okay, well, she's going to put up huge stats on Dagger. She's going to put up huge stats on Human Torch and stuff like that. If that's the problem, if Move just pops off and goes crazy because of Aranya and all this stuff that's coming out, I would rather you take a little bit off Dagger, a little bit off Human Torch, a little bit off the Vulture, and give a little bit back to stuff like Madam Web so she can live in these other decks and these other archetypes. You designed a really cool card that does really cool stuff. It shouldn't be a 2-1. It could be better than that and work in these ongoing decks. You know what I mean? So like, it's just a thought I had.
Yeah, I think that they play test the best they can, and I think they were afraid in the long run of what the community could have done with her and might still do. So I think they're letting that cook out a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to take us to our next topic of discussion here, which is the Archetype MVPs. And the MVPs of Marvel Snap, they can come in all different shapes and sizes. And I mean, listen, if there's one thing that has become incredibly clear with Marvel Snap lately, is they're trying to make more archetypes more viable, okay? Clearly, we're getting a Move injection right now. We got a Discard injection a couple months ago. We got a Zoo injection a few months ago. And so like every time you get these new cards that really shake up individual archetypes, you add to the breadth of decks that you can be playing against and be playing with, which adds excitement. And so let's talk about some of the archetype MVPs, the cards that carry these archetypes right now. We'll be talking about them in terms of their meta share and the archetypes as a whole. Cozy, let's get started with Zoo, because Zoo has been a very top performer for the last couple months. Who do you think is one of the MVPs of that archetype?
So for me, the way I look at MVPs is the card that you want to add to your collection that then gives you the best oomph to the deck, the best increase to the deck. And for me, it's Gilgamesh. I mean, like, to me, there's no other pick than Gilgamesh. If you're playing Zoo without Gilgamesh, you're playing the old school Zoo. Right at the end of the day, it's just not going to do. Gilgamesh put it over the top because Zoo can go so wide, and then I'm doing the classic thing. I can't find this freaking card. There it is. You're able to go so wide, but then with Gilgamesh, you're able to go extremely tall, and Zoo needed that. And so when you look across the board, you can fill in so many one costs. You can fill in. Yeah, Marvel Boy's great, but I do think Gilgamesh is probably the anchor point, and or I guess Marvel Boy.
Yeah, so like Gilgamesh is definitely like the closer, right? Mm-hmm. He's the encore, he's the finale, he's the thing that slams the power down, he wins a location. There are very few cards in Marvel Snap right now that can effectively 1v1 Gilgamesh, let alone at 5 cost, right? And 5 cost is kind of a superpower here because it allows you to play a Ant-Man, a Squirrel Girl, or whatever happens to be in your hand, which is likely to be a 1-drop, surprisingly enough, right? It could even be a grappling hook or something from Kate Bishop. She makes some of those decks as well. Gilgamesh, his reach is incredible. And one of the other MVPs of Zoo, which is similar to Gilgamesh in its ability to reach, is Mockingbird. Now, Mockingbird did get nerfed from a 10 to a 9, but still, Mockingbird, especially when you consider the Shaunas and the Squirrel Girls, could often be like, oh, I'm going to play Ant-Man, I'm going to play Gilgamesh. Oh, look at this. I have a 0 cost in Mockingbird as well.
Yeah.
Right? It's a matter of space, to be honest with you. You run out of space to play all these massive cards.
Yeah, for sure. And I think now with Squirrel being just like an absolute staple with like Marvel Boy, you don't need as many of these 1-cost cards. You just have 1 spreading wide, and then that also synergizes into Mockingbird, which just makes the whole thing kind of sing.
Can you say that Blue Marvel would definitely be a Zoo MVP as well?
Yes, but in the sense of, for me, MVPs are the card that you add that really just gives the most of that archetype, that really takes it to the next level. And like Blue Marvel, for sure, I think is there. Right, but like everybody has Blue Marvel. You're gonna have it out the gate. It's literally, I think, in the starting season pass, like the thing you have to have. And so, yes, and also, but more so, Gilgamesh. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, listen, another kind of archetype that's making a lot of progress over the last little while is going to be Junk. Okay. Now, when talking about Junk MVPs, I did mention the Hood in our prior discussion there, where basically the Hood represents an opportunity to basically kick something over with Viper. It can be used with Annihilus. There's so many different variations of the Hood play. But are there any other cards in your mind that really stand out as Junk MVPs?
So there's a plug and play option, and then there's like the sleeper pick. I got to go with the most common one. Yeah, it's going to be White Widow. White Widow. Yeah. White Widow is just such a crack card in this game because you're having a card that's able to push and clog their lane, is a -3 that forces them to play there, and you're putting out it for just 2. And it is such a strong card to pair up with a tech card at 4 on turn 6, whatever you want to do with it. White Widow is the answer in and outside of Junk, but I do have a sleeper choice as well. But yeah, it's got to be White.
Yeah, White Widow is definitely my archetype MVP right now for Junk. It's been remarkable how good this card has been. And I just want to give a special shout out to Viper as well. I think that Viper's play rate, is currently at 8%, which is so high for Viper. Like, Viper was a card you almost never, ever saw. And now it is a legit contender in a very legitimate deck.
Yeah, and my shout out, dude, if you want to win some sleeper games, man, and people they never expect this card, especially save the demon and play it with him. I think Cannonball is just a crack card that people aren't playing enough of.
Yeah, no one plays Cannonball anymore. It's actually buffed to a 5/8. Its primary synergy with Professor X no longer exists, but I mean, listen, you lost Professor X, but you got the Viper, and so I mean, and of course White Widow came out after that nerf as well. So yeah, you got a lot more tools to play with there. And similar to Junk, we have Toxic. Toxic is an archetype that's gotten a lot of tools lately, and I mean, what's a card that stands out for you as a Toxic MVP?
it's gotta be the Ajax with Hazmat. I think that's just like the combo now.
Yeah, especially considering that you can like Ajax turn 5 and then Mystique Hazmat turn 6, and like it's an incredible amount of power. Ajax is one of the few cards that can. It's similar to Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh and Ajax are the two 5 drops that can compete power wise with 6 drops, right? But I feel like Gilgamesh is so much easier, and you have to work so much harder for Ajax that like I feel like he's a little harder to play, and as a result, his win rates are lower. But in the hands of someone who like just play, there's a lot of Ajax truthers out there. We see you guys, trust me. Like we know you guys are out there, and like Ajax puts up serious numbers.
Yeah, and the thing is, Clog and Toxic decks, they're kind of one and the same, but they counter so many of the strong metas out there that you're giving yourself a wide amount of decks to be good against. My thing with it is Destroy is always the most played deck in the archetype, and that's always really good against this, right? Typically tries to play just one big card, a couple big cards like Venom, Null, whatever. But yeah, Ajax is insane.
Yeah, and we'd be remiss.
There's
another word that we use. There it is. We'd be remiss not to mention the 22 meta share percentage of Cassandra Nova. Obviously, a core component of the new Toxic archetype. Now, you mentioned Destroy. We may as well bring up Destroy here. I want to hear who your MVP is because there's a couple. There's a couple true MVPs of Destroy. So who is it?
Ooh, I think time and time again, for me, it's just Venom because in general, with Venom, like, you have the threat of Arnim Zola. You have the threat of them having to immediately, like, how many cards do they destroy? Do they have the Null? Do they have the Death? He's giving that leverage to the other, what could be MVPs. So for me, yeah, it is Venom. It's always has been.
Yeah, it's always been Venom. And it's crazy to think that there was a time in, like, the early release window where Venom wasn't that good. Was he a 3-1? Was it a 3-1?
It was a 3-1, yeah.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, honestly, I can't even believe it was 2 power that made the difference. It couldn't have been. Like, he was so good anyways. Like, it's like, do you ever look at Venom, you're like, God damn, I wish there was 2 power off that guy right now? Like, no.
yeah. I mean, I think that with, like, X23 and the Snowball and the Null, and that's kind of opened it up. And X23 is a close contender, too, just allowing the play lines to be as they are. But, yeah, Venom's huge. But Atuma, man, he's also making his presence.
Oh, I'm so happy you bring up Atuma as a Destroy candidate as well, because like there's been some really fancy decks with like, Atuma and Nimrod and stuff like that. And Nimrod, I think, like, if we talk about this in the future, Nimrod's an up and riser for sure. But like, yeah, Atuma, especially with the amount of junk and clog we're seeing, does a really good job there, but it does double duty. It's activating some of your Destroy stuff. And I want to make a crazy statement. I'm going to say that in terms of archetype MVP, I feel like Killmonger is more of an MVP than Deadpool. I would make the argument that Killmonger for Destroy across all decks is a greater MVP on the Destroy mechanic than Deadpool is for the single deck he's in.
Yeah, I think so. I think what he does for like just being offense and defense at the same time, like Deadpool's great if you get the right things going. Now we might, eat this when Aranya comes out. We'll have to see. But yeah, dude, I think that's a good call. Solid call.
Yeah, and this is a little trickier, okay? So Ongoing is an archetype that like has many different shapes or forms. Now we know you have a couple absolute pet favorite archetype defining Ongoing cards. Do you want to give us one of them?
Ooh, I think Ongoing's a bit tougher because there's just there are so many ways to play it, right? So you have like the Tribunal builds that are crazy. Like the best way to do it, in my opinion, is if I sort here by Ongoing and I just like take a quick look at all of them. 2 that stand out a ton is probably Claw and Iron Man. Those 2 are just like anchors. And I know I just said it's cards that you add to your collection, and then we pick things like Venom, so maybe that doesn't make the most sense of what I lined up with. Dude, I might go with Iron Man, dude. That guy just does so much for so many decks.
Wasn't it last week we did the best combos in Snap? We started with Iron Man because like Iron Man Mystique, who's actually one of my MVPs. How can you not talk about Mystique being an MVP?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, these cards are like beginner cards or pool 3 at the very least for Mystique. But like, yes. Like, isn't that crazy to think though? Like we stress so much about like series 5 cards and tokens. We got a starter deck card. The first card you get in Marvel Snap is legit one of the best in the game. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
We kind of lose sight of that sometimes.
Yeah, and I would actually say War Machine is making his way and being one of the best now, too. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy. And I mean, and also a good special mention here is going to be Sarah. Sarah's only running a 7% meta share right now, but Sarah is like, it's everywhere. I don't think Sarah's going anywhere anytime soon. And it's clearly a very powerful card. Now, when we talk about on reveal, obviously there's a very wide breadth of what on reveal encompasses. Who are some of the on reveal MVPs in your opinion? And I mean, do we count Symbiote Spider-Man as one of them?
Yeah, kind of like, it's tough. I think for me, when I think on reveal, obviously you think Odin. But Doctor Doom, to me is like the on reveal card that, you know, you just want to combo off of. That and Namora, if you know, if I can count her too. But those are cards with on reveal. So probably it might just always be. Are we counting Symbiote? I like Symbiote so much better than Odin at this point.
Yeah, I just want to mention Symbiote Spider-Man because, like, as a whole, like, I don't think he's on the same level as Doctor Doom, right? I don't think he's there. Like, I don't think he will get there either.
No.
But, like, he is very synergistic with a lot of these on-reveal cards, and so that's why I kind of wanted to bring him up. I don't think he's an Archetype MVP in that sense at all. Maybe for Activate one day when we get to add that there. Would you consider Wong an MVP?
Yeah, dude, it's funny that Wong now feels way less greedy, especially with, I did a couple things with the old Madam Web and Wong. You know, for the most part, on reveal decks, especially all in, are just their combo decks. They're greedy. They do their thing, and you try to find the most consistent one. But yeah, Wong is definitely in the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I feel like Wong sometimes like tips your hand as to like what your goals are. Like, and also I think that often, like, who's staying in against Wong when you don't have Cosmo or you don't have like a Magneto or some sort of answer to that, right? It's a automatic retreat card. When we're referring to other archetypes, now Discard is having a major resurgence as well, and I do think that Discard's resurgence is thanks to the Alliance missions. It has to be, right? And I actually, that's worth mentioning. Hey, listen, if you want more people to play some of these other archetypes, just add more good Alliance missions, right?
Yeah.
Who would be some of your Discard MVPs?
Ooh, I've been playing a lot of Discard lately, and for me, it's cool because there's so many different ways to play Discard depending on how you do it. I mean, Apoc's Apoc, man. Now that Apoc's back to where he was, I think it's hard to not say him. But, like, they all do different things, right? Like, you know, playing something like Moon Knight, Black Bolt, and Stature, that's one really strong package. Two, that we're seeing just flex into a lot of builds. Moon Knight now having that targetability and then targeting the opponent's deck and then helping you out. That's just doing so many things. We talk about that all the time. One card that does so many things, right?
Yeah, I mean, dude, you're 100% right to identify Moon Knight. Moon Knight is the key component of all the high-performing meta decks for Discard right now. There's no question. He's in every single one of them. But I want to give a special shout-out to a card that I think is really underappreciated, and in my opinion is an Archetype MVP for Discard, and that's Lady Sif. Like, Lady Sif is just not appreciated. It's a 3/5, it's a premium stat line. It discards the highest costed card in your hand, and it gives you a confidence that usually does not exist with Discard. And of course, we've gained these targeted effects over time, but Lady Sif is the original targeted effect. It has been a mainstay in Discard, in so many forms of Discard. Are you playing it in Hela? Or sorry, you're not playing it in Hela necessarily. You were playing it in Hela, but you're also playing it in Agatha. You're playing it in Apoc. You're playing it in Moon Knight. Not Moon Knight, sorry. You are playing it with Moon Knight. You're playing it with, who's the other knight? Black Knight. Sorry, I'm so confused. It's
a lot
too
of knights
late,
out there.
It's
Approximately
too late.
midnight. You got a lot of knights. There's a lot of knights.
A lot of knights in here. But yeah, like, I do think that Lady Sif is an unsung hero of Discard.
Absolutely, man. And if you're looking for one card to add, per se, I think it might be Proxima. I think she's just really strong, and just having that free play is crazy. And the more we get these kind of cards, the more it's going to boost. We talked a lot of move, right? Moves and archetype we didn't talk about. I do think it's Madam Web. I think she is going to be that card now, that archetype defining card, because I just don't know who else it would be. Like, yeah, Dagger, Human Torch, they all do things, but I think it might have to be Madam.
I feel like Dagger is the one. Like, to me, I feel like Dagger's numbers, like, without Dagger, Madam Web is like, okay, you're working with Human Torch and Vulture, I guess. But
I think she will be the staple.
Like the reach, right?
I think she will be the staple. Like, I don't know. She definitely, like, increases. And I don't know, man. I remember saying this last week or 2 weeks ago. I didn't like Miles as much. I think Miles Morales is just, like, not a good card. I don't know. I think I just don't see it as much. I kind of want them to do, like, a stature treatment to make him a 5 and then figure out his stat line.
I could see that. I mean, as a 4/6, often a 1/6, right? Like, is he even worth the payoff when, again, you have a massive dagger and, Vulture moves once and it's just better than this card right there, right? At one less cost. Yeah, so like I can definitely see it. Like I do think Miles Morales has made its way into a number of decks. It was really popular during the Silky Smooth era, but like we're talking about move and Silk's gone, right? We're cheating way more power than these cards can really kind of generate.
I think when we get the Scream and we have like moving a card and it adding, I think Spider-Man with like a Miles Morales, you move, you steal power, then you have a Miles for 1/6. Like the way that deck's gonna operate, that's gonna be like the return of Silky Smooth. What a name. But yeah, that could see the reemergence of a lot of these cards.
Yeah, talking about a card that's in the gutter, Spider-Man is in rough shape. And now we have a couple more archetypes to talk through. Cozy, who do you think is the MVP of Bounce?
MVP of Bounce? To me, is Falcon, dude. I think Falcon's just the card in Bounce. I get it. He's a 3/5. He does his thing. But there are just so many impactful ones that you can just snowball off of that it's him for me.
That surprises me. Like, So you're saying that Falcon is more instrumental to Bounce than Beast?
No, I don't think so. I think he's just my MVP.
He's your personal MVP.
Yeah, he's my personal MVP. I mean, I think it's very close. They're both so important in the decks that they play in now, and then you're gonna add Intoxing to that too. Like, good gosh.
Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely. Yeah, Toxins coming out next month. And how do you think Silver Sable fits into those decks?
Yeah, Silver Sable's just important. I mean, she's flexible though. Like I just don't like. She's good. She's very good. She's a very good bounce card that's gonna immediately make the archetype better. But if you didn't have her, having Rocket Raccoon isn't like this tremendous, massive difference. But it is, she is like the bounce card now.
Yeah, I guess if you can consistently hit your Rocket's always going to be bigger, right? Yeah. But you're not consistently hitting your Rocket, right? Yeah. Okay, let's close up with a couple of fun ones. Okay, we have two more. Tech cards. Tech MVP cards. I'm not necessarily an archetype, but let's talk about them. Tech cards. Shang-Chi's running a 26% meta share.
He's back, dude. Good. I don't know why he ever left it. I think tech cards are done so well in this game. Yeah, I think Shang-Chi's at the top of that list, and right after that for me is Red Guardian. I think those are the two that I've been playing the most right now by a pretty far margin, but also Rogue. I don't know why people don't play Rogue more. I feel like it depends on the season and how many ongoing cards there are, but between her and Super Scroll, both those cards are just so underplayed.
Yeah, instead of playing War Machine yourself, just play Super Scroll right now. You basically get War Machine for free, right?
Exactly.
Plus everything else they're doing. But yeah, actually, it's a good call. Like, Rogue has the snap equity, I think. You snap, you steal a card, it's awesome. I think Red Guardian, though, has like this card's always going to be useful. Yep. Like, you never play, like with Rogue, you're like holding, you're like, well, damn, they haven't played non-going yet. What the hell do I do with this? With Red Guardian, you're like, well, I'll just pump this Squirrel Girl or whatever, right? That's going to get taken out of context. But what I mean, though, is that like it does a thing and it always does it, whereas Rogue doesn't always do it, right? And although Shang-Chi's at 26%, Shadow King surprises me at 10%. People just don't like Shadow King. I can't figure out why.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. Like, he does so much impact. I think it's just because it hurts your own side, and a lot of these scaling decks utilize that. But it is strange. He's not played near as much when he should be.
Absolutely. And the final thing we'll talk about on this particular topic is one that we just called the Jack of all trades. These cards that aren't necessarily in archetypes but find themselves in so many different archetypes. And I'm going to get you started with Nico. Nico running a 22% meta share. It's staple in, Phoenix Force. It's staple in Destroy. It's staple in... like, the list goes on, man.
Yeah.
Nico, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, if I were to say three cards that I think are either like some of the best in the game or like three of the plug and play cards that are the MVPs, Nico was on there, Iron Lad, and Copycat. Those three are like, I think just played and could be played in so many decks. They do something so specific and so important, and Copycat should be realistically in like every deck because she just gives you so much in one card that it's just nuts. Like, single-handedly, she could just give you a Dr. Doom or whatever. Like, just such an incredible I win the game for doing nothing on top.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny because ever since the change to Copycat, I'm one of the ones that leans towards like, I don't like playing this card as much, even though I know that I'm being irrational. The card has not functionally changed from a power level. The steal versus the copy shouldn't matter, but it matters to me, like, emotionally, so I haven't been playing it. But then again, I'm emotionally soft.
That makes it.
I can't believe you didn't bring up Red Hulk, by the way.
I'm not like the craziest Red Hulk player. I would say I'm near the bottom of the statistics for Red Hulk. I just don't play him a lot. I lean the Doom and the spread approach a bit more probably with a tech card to counter rather than like look at my big cards go kind of thing. But Red Hulk is like he still is like one of those just like plug and play fantastic, top 3 6 cost cards.
And as a closing note on this topic here, Jeff the baby land shark, which used to have a 32% meta share, is now down to 14%.
Yeah, I think it's going down, man. War Machine does his job, but better.
Yeah, but also like we have like White Widow, we have Kate Bishop, which actually is running 18% right now. Another jack of all trades. There's just so much competition at that space, right? And it's kind of brought to mind like something like a Lizard. Like I was playing Lizard recently. I'm like, why is this card still -4? Like, what are we doing? Make this a -3 again. Like, come on, this is the easiest change on the planet. And Cozy, that takes us to our Snapchat mailbag. We got a lot of tips and we got a lot of conversation to be had here, Cozy. And it starts with Brandon Street, who says, Alex, just a little tip. If you click on Symbiote on the board to check the card, there's an activate button that you only have to tap as opposed to long holding the card. And the reason why this comes up is because last week I joked about how like I actually like while there was like the end of a turn happening and like the screen was blinking red, I actually didn't activate the card because I couldn't hold it long enough, right? So apparently you can actually click the card and activate it. FYI,
yeah, I almost mentioned that to you last week, but yeah, I'm glad we're bringing this up because people don't know that, and it makes it easier to activate your cards. One coming out this week.
The activate needs to be faster, man. It's way too slow. Like, even if you're holding, you're like, what is happening here, man?
I know, dude. I don't know if they thought people were just like, I don't know, holding their hands too long and they would accidentally activate something. Yeah, but they need to change it a bit.
And the next one comes in from one of the best names I've read in a while, Fastos Enjoyer, and it reads, petition to change Cyclops' text from let's move X-Men to me, my X-Men.
The fact that it hasn't happened is ridiculous. Venom's voice line got changed because they messed that one up so bad with the I and we, and so
I don't even understand that. Can you explain that to me? I saw it a million times, and like I watched Venom, but I've not seen the other movies.
That's his line, dude. That's the whole line.
Is it really that simple? He just always says we are Venom.
You said you've watched the movie. It's like it's not as big as with great power comes great responsibility, but like we are Venom has been in the comics and been with Venom's identity, like because like together, like Venom's not its own thing, it is a symbiote, but like we are together are Venom, right? Like the host and the symbiote. So that's the best I can do. Someone could probably do better than that.
Yeah, and the other one's obviously Uncle Ben, right?
Yeah,
but that's not. Is that from one of the Spider? I haven't watched the really old Spider-Mans yet.
What do you mean the really old ones?
Like I don't know. There's 3 dudes, right?
3 dudes. First of all, Tobey Maguire is a freaking national treasure, you piece of shit.
Okay, so he's the first one, right? But he's the one that kept crying during them?
Yeah, he was emotional. He had a lot of bad things happen to him.
Yeah, I was younger. I couldn't handle it. I was like, okay, this movie's rough. But then there was the other guy who I really liked. He was like kind of younger and like...
Yeah, but the old ones had the best Mary Jane.
Is that the one from that 70s show?
No, she was never in that. Hold on.
Is she?
No, let me get the...
Am I supposed to know all this stuff, or is it okay that I have no idea what the hell's going on?
No. You're good. Except you're not. It's Kristen something. It's killing me right now. Mary Jane Watson was played by Kristen... dude, I'm not going to be able to find it now.
Dunst?
Now, this is going to be... Dunst. Is that... Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
See, I knew the name, but I couldn't even figure out... Then who's the girl from that 70s show?
Absolute babe. Not her.
They look the same, though, don't they?
Not at all. They have red hair.
Okay, well, okay. Let's move on before I embarrass myself further. The next question comes in from Why Are You Reading This? 886, and it reads, man, that Loki month was by far the most cracked month. Loki, Ravonna, imagine she was the same as she was now, Mobius in his broken state, and Alioth. And this is in reference to you reminiscing about some of the cracked spotlight caches we've had in the past.
Yeah, nothing comes close to that month. That's like, that will always reign supreme as the most ridiculous month.
Do you remember how like people were kind of unsure about whether or not Alioth was going to be good?
That whole month, dude. People like, I don't know. It's like every single card just was so cracked from the beginning. But between Mobius, Loki, and Alioth, like, and Loki and Alioth came out on like the same week, yeah, same day almost, or was it like 1 week apart with how it used to be?
I think they were apart. I'm not sure they had the simultaneous releases yet with that season.
Yeah,
But
it's
what
so
I do
crazy.
remember though is that Mobius and Mobius had like the paid bundle, had like a bundle coming out, and then they nerfed it like immediately, I think after the bundle. And then it was like, what? And it was like, boom. It was like Armageddon in Marvel Snap. And they're like, no, they were like in full like PR mode there to try to like rein it all in. It was a disaster.
gosh.
Mobius and Mobius. That was a crazy time in Snap.
What a mini.
Yeah, one of many. And Hurricane Blitz 4 comes in with a question and says, my question for the Snapchat mailbag is, what is your favorite nickname of a card? This is mainly for you, Alex, because I hear you say lots of nicknames all the time, like Magento or Hydration Robert. But I would love to hear if Cozy has some as well.
I don't do the nicknames as much. I think people, I think I've always not been much of a nicknamer. I say A-Bomb. I think that's like my main one. A-Bomb for Abomination. There's a character named A-Bomb, so that'll be interesting. SG for Squirrel Girl. That's, I think those are my main ones.
Yeah, honestly, so first of all, I think Magento began with Binks.
Yeah,
I think
Binks
he was the godfather of Magento. We got to give credit where it's due.
Skillmonger, I hate that one.
Which one?
Skillmonger or something.
I say Skillmonger all the time.
I hate that one.
Yeah, I know that annoys people. Magento, I have so many. Hydration Robert, I call him the Water Boy.
I like
that. I'm like, oh, we got the Water Boy here, and then I think that's so funny. I can't think of it. I have like a million of them. I do. I can't even think of them on the spot. I should have just written them down. I'm the one that pulled this question up. But I can't. But one thing I will say is that like it drives people nuts, and like I've been trying to rein it in because people are actually like, does this guy actually think it's Magento? Like, can he not read at all? Has he never watched? Like, has he watched like Xavier say like, oh hi Magento, like great to see you. Why are you at our compound today? Like, obviously that's not happening at all. But also we have fun. If anything, I've been called out for, Cozy, is apparently in my videos I say this a lot. Oh, we got some blank gameplay. And people always say, like, Alex, you gotta stop saying that. Like, oh, we got some Hydration Robert gameplay. Like, if someone plays a card, I act like I'm blown. I can't believe they just played this card against me. And it's like every game I say that.
Really? I haven't noticed. I love it. I feel like I never realize what I say a lot of, in general.
Neither do I.
I do say, so we, what do I say? No, I don't even know, man. I think people have commented down below what we say the most, but it'd be interesting to see.
One thing I will say, though, is that you're so known for saying happy snapping, and on your new channel, you don't say happy snapping.
I don't know what to say.
Like,
I don't know what to say.
I'm like, what? Like, the end of the video happens. I'm just like in shambles every time. Like, I don't even know what's happening.
I do everything in like one take a lot, and then I always have to do my outros a lot on the new channel because I'm like, have a good one. Like, I don't know, it's not good. And then the Snap team stole happy snapping, and they just never said anything. I'm calling you out. Never said on the OT notes, happy snapping. Just would love a little bit of,
Yeah, we just wanted like a public apology, like a written, formalized apology.
I want a whole video.
Publish it to Discord at everyone. That's all
Bro,
we're asking for.
video trailer.
And our final question of the Snapchat mailbag comes in from Big Steve, 1997, and it asks, what character are you most excited to learn more about on Cozy's new channel other than Arrow? Cozy, if I can make a suggestion.
Okay.
I do have a suggestion, but I know you cannot feasibly do this unless somehow they make an entire season dedicated to Alpha Flight. We need Alpha Flight. But if you just make an Alpha Flight video and release it, it's getting 4 views. So you're going to have to wait for the actual season.
Maybe 7. Yeah, man. I would say that are up there as high contenders, Noel, Jeff, Arrow. Those are the ones that I see a lot of that people want to see. And so I'm going to be getting to the old ones. It's a lot of work to be doing these. I think people are like, we want them longer. Guys, I'm spending like effing hours getting these things out. Like, it is not easy. I would do more if I could. But yeah, those are big. And then I want to hit some old classics like Thanos and whatnot.
Yeah, well, you're doing like those like parallax 3D comic book effects. Like, I'm watching. I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. Like, I wouldn't even know how to start. I wouldn't even know what to search on YouTube to learn how to do that. Like, it's so ridiculous, right? I'm like, what is even happening here? The amount of work that goes into it. And no, dude, it's been awesome. And I actually don't envy the idea of like one day you're gonna have to do like Professor X, and he has like 75 years of history.
Oh,
it's
dude,
like,
I know.
Welcome to my 7.5 hour video. That's also a 9-part series on Professor X.
A brief retrospective on Professor Xavier. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. We sincerely appreciate every single one of you. You allow us to live our dreams each and every week. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on that next Snapchat episode.